Hello, my name is Robert Jamieson, and I'm about to make a short video on a book that I've just, haven't really published it. I've actually completed the book, but what I want to do is to claim priority on the ideas, or some of the ideas that I've actually outlined in this book. So I'm going to make this priority video. I'm going to pop it up onto YouTube, where it will be dated, and I can claim priority on some of the ideas, which is always a good idea if you're a writer, because you never know, somebody out there might sort of look at your manuscript and think that's a good idea and publish it ahead of you and then claim priority on the idea. So here we go. I'm going to turn you around. Now what I've got to do is to line this up on the screen. Get my glasses, and I think that looks fairly good. Okay, so you can see, and you can probably, if I get a bit closer, I don't know how that's gonna look on your screen when you read it, but I can see the actual, I get a pointer here somewhere, I can see the title of the book, The Collapse and Reconstruction of Earth's Quantum Wave Function. And down here you can see that's page 1, that's copyright information, and that's on the page to the right, page number 2, that's a foreword by Kev Richardson. Now I'm going to, if I can, scroll down. Okay, so that's Kev's foreword, and okay, there you can see on the right part 1, content part 2, and a total of 141 pages. We're only going to go through we're not going to go through part 3, because that's just a God Commits Q&A, and if you're familiar with my work, you'll know that a lot of my earlier books are about the God Gametes theory, that our consciousness is a male gamete of a creator being. But anyway, this bit is about quantum wave function, and as you can see there, that's the actual wave function, and when it's observed it collapses into a single point. Okay, we'll try and keep this as brief as possible. Okay, right, now if you want some brushing up on the quantum effects, you can read that. That's taken from a video by Phil Ball, who's sort of one of these quantum physicists. And over here, this is supporting evidence for my theory that our consciousness is a sperm cell of a creator being, Lord Shiva, who sort of dates back to 6000 pre-Old Testament. There's an image there with a sperm cell entering Lord Shiva's third eye. Okay, now this bit here talks about the quantum collapse of the wave function, where the wave function collapses into a single point, and I note on this this image, which you see everywhere, that all that there will tell you. I bumped the camera, but I think it's still right. You'll see this image here everywhere. Like you can read all that, like it's Phil Ball, Sean Carroll, etc., etc., etc. It's got a Y there and an X and a Y. Now I don't know why that X and Y is there, other than the fact that our chromosomes are X and Y, X for female, Y for male, and I suggest that the whole thing might be conforming to my theory about us being a reproductive system, that out there in the cosmos somewhere there's X and Y chromosomes, or like that the creator being is a gender-based thing that reproduces, and we've sort of inherited their X and Y chromosomes from their gender-based reproducing creator entity, whatever they are. Okay, so here we go. I've sort of put, that's the wave function. This is a Y. This is a, hang on, no, the female one is X, of course, and the Y is the female male, and you got the Y and the X there, and it gets back. This is the collapse and reconstruction of Earth's quantum wave function. So it collapses here into an X and Y, and then this DNA business shows you how the collapsed X and Y reconstructs into the wave function. So it goes round and round and round, typical of a reproductive system. And over here I sort of suggest that this concept is depicted in our ancient history. So this is a mural from Queen Hatshepsut, the Karnak Temple. You've got the two, like those two pyramids relate to the X and Y, and Hatshepsut, whatever, she is part male, part female. Okay, so try and keep this thing going. Okay, that's the Egyptian temples had the pillars out front, the front of the gate to the temple, right? And this is the Kandi Bentas in Bali, which is a Hindu thing, and they're obviously male and female. All the gates to the, not all of them, I suppose, but most of them are. The gates to the temples have got male down one side and female down the other side, and the church steeples as well. I sort of suggest there that those steeples, rather than being phallic symbols, are actually depicting the male and female. I won't go into that. There's heaps of stuff about the anatomy of the church. Okay, so rightio. Now, a lot of people object to the idea that they might be a sperm cell, but the sperm cells are tough little guys. You know, they find their way through 10,000 cervical crypts. They carry the life of. We all started out. We're only here because one of those little guys managed to find their way through 10,000 cervical crypts and managed to get into the right oviduct and penetrate the hard wall of the female egg, the female egg being something like 30,000 times larger than the actual sperm cell, and they recover from defeat. They don't get discouraged. While one ejaculate of sperm cells was getting bumped off by the millions, the male that produces them are producing replacements at the rate of 1,000 per second. So males produce 1,000 sperm cells with every heartbeat. Well, they're pretty tough little guys. Okay, so keep this thing rolling. Okay, now part two. This is sort of gets on to flat Earth. So there's Claudius Ptolemy, who in 100 of the current era mapped the stars. Okay, so he worked out where Mars and Jupiter and things like that, and he just assumed that they were revolving around a stationary flat Earth. And then along came Nicholas Copernicus, and he noticed that Mars sometimes goes backwards, and he couldn't work out why that would be. And then he sort of produced the heliocentric model, that the Earth wasn't the centre, but the sun was the centre, and that everything revolved around the sun. And so his model then became the standard model that everybody has a bit of a laugh about, the idea that we're flat, that the Earth is flat. Of course it's round, and we revolve around it. And so then that's Isaac Newton, and so you're saying sometimes gravity makes things stick to stuff, and sometimes it makes stuff orbit around stuff. So there's a bit of a problem with Newtonian physics. Like, it worked pretty well in threes spatial dimensions of time, 3 spatial dimensions, a single forward arrow of time. But when you sort of get out into the atmosphere, like beyond Earth's atmosphere into space, there's all that dark matter and dark energy out there that they don't know what it is, right? Now, okay, we're going to get onto the structure of atoms are very, very small. They got these tiny little things that revolve around the nucleus of atom. You can have a read of that. And they sort of discovered that quantum physics, those tiny little things that revolve around the nucleus of atom, like electrons and photons and things like that, they're really weird, okay? And that's about the two-slit experiment. And the significant thing is that those quantum particles, electrons and photons and things like that, they react to human observation. They know when you are looking at it. And we've got Schrödinger's cat there, and Schrödinger basically sort of developed this thought experiment where the cat is in a box with a okay, quickly talk about the cat in a box, and that's poison, okay? And in here they've got a particle that we know will decay or not decay within a given period of time. Okay, now if it decays, it'll trick that hammer, the hammer will break the vase and the cat's dead, right? If it doesn't decay, the cat's alive. But the thing is about these quantum particles, they decay or not decay within a given period of time, but they don't decay or not decay until you look at them, okay? So they're in the superposition of being either decayed or not decayed until you observe them. So what happens here, like we know that over a given period of time it's going to decay or not decay, and then it's either going to, if it decays, it's going to break the vase, the cat's going to be dead. But the cat's not going to be dead until you open the box and look at it. So Schrödinger's cat's he's in a superposition of being dead and alive, not or alive. He's in a superposition of being both dead and alive until you open the box and have a look and observe. And then once you observe, he's either dead or alive. But until you open the box, he's in the superposition of being both dead and alive. Okay. Whew. Right. Okay. So now we just thought that that quantum effect happened in the cold, very sterile, pristine conditions that you find in a laboratory, where these quantum physicists do these experiments. But they found that it happens in biology, right? And we won't go into that. But now I'm going to talk about the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system, I believe, is a quantum effect. Like we've got 160,000 kilometres of arteries, veins and capillaries. So if you took the arteries, veins and capillaries in the human body and lay them out end to end, it's 160,000 kilometres, which is 4 times around the world, and 80% of that is capillaries, which have an internal diameter of I think it's 5 microns or something like that. It's 1/5 the diameter of a hair. And so, this tiny little thing that goes boom, boom, boom with paper-thin valves is meant to pump blood through 120,000 kilometres of capillaries that are sometimes got a smaller diameter than the actual blood cells themselves. So it's totally impossible. And they've actually observed blood in the unborn embryo, going through the veins and capillaries and things like that before the heart is formed. And they've actually removed the heart from a chick, and they find that the blood circulates for 10 minutes even after the heart been removed. So there's something going on there, right? Our biology is getting energy from somewhere, and it's unknown. I believe it's from the quantum vacuum out there somewhere. Okay, Alpine Swift flies from the Swiss Alps in Switzerland around Africa and back. It takes 6 months, during which time the Alpine Swift never stops flying. Okay, now I'm going to here relate the actual quantum effect to biology. Okay, this is our cells with 2 copies of our DNA, 1 copy from mum, 1 copy from dad, and that gets collapsed into gametes, okay, which have got either a copy of mum's DNA or a copy of dad's DNA, right? Okay, now the dictionary definition of meiosis is to lessen to make small, etc., etc. So the reason why they call it meiosis is because it makes things smaller. Okay, that's Sean Carroll. Again, he talks about the collapse of the wave function, and he's got the X and the Y's there, and I relate that to meiosis there, and I point out the fact that it's when our young start to become aware, they observe their sexuality, that the male body and the female body starts to collapse their germline cells into gametes, okay? And that's a Weissman barrier, that the reason why we don't, that we're on the other side of a Weissman barrier. The Weissman barrier is where our germline cells basically they're separated from the somatic cells. The ones that code for building our body are the somatic cells, and the germline cells are separated by this Weissman barrier. And that's the reason why, if our consciousness is a gamete, that's the reason why we don't comprehend the other dimensions of space and time and those other where that wave function, what's out there in that wave function, where all that energy is, right? This is talking about the fact that our DNA only codes for 2%, like only 2% of our DNA codes for us, the other 98%, which is out there in this quantum wave function, just sort of sits there and does nothing. Okay, there's talked before about the energy and the dark energy, dark matter that's out there in the quantum wave function, and it gets collapsed into the 4% that we can see. Same with our audio spectrum. We can only hear a small amount of the actual sound out there. We can only see, what is it, 0.0035% of the light spectrum. That's Schrodinger's cat again. And again, here we talk about the actual our ancient history. Okay, the fact that the Egyptians basically conceptualize, the big guys there and the little guys there, and I talk about the fact that they've all this ancient history talks about or depicts sperm cells. This looks like DNA. Again, the sacred serpent. The sacred serpent is actually sperm cells. Okay, this is Novare Kori. That's near Göbekli Tepe. This is somewhere in Peru. This is again Göbekli Tepe, etc. This is a temple in India somewhere. That's it there. Don't expect me to pronounce that. But again, vestigial, like every now and then those that genetic sequences that don't get coded, that don't code for building body parts. Every now and then they produce body parts that reflect the history of our species. So we've got the bit that's actually us here on planet Earth in 2022, nearly 2023, and the rest of it is sort of non-coding DNA. Doesn't code for life here on planet Earth, but it's part of the actual life entity that's out there floating around in the cosmic quantum wave function. Now, here I've actually put out of place artifacts, right? More over there. Now, I believe that there's a time thing, that time gets collapsed. There's an entity of time out there that where time is not confined to just a single forward hour of time. It's time forever. So the fact that you've got these pots and things that have been found in Roxby conglomerate that lay down 593 years ago is the fact that out there, it doesn't matter whether it's sort of, the 15th of December 2022, like if we want to drop something that's in conglomerate that's 593 million years ago, well, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, you guys on planet Earth can only sort of, you're sort of stuck in this single forward hour of time, but out there in the quantum wave function, it doesn't matter. We can go backwards and forwards as far as we like. We can stand still. It doesn't matter. They've got other dimensions of space and time that allow them to just potter around anywhere they like on planet Earth, millions of years ago, or millions of years in the past, and probably millions of years into the future. Doesn't matter. as I say, they're not confined to our single forward hour of time, where we can only basically comprehend what's happening in this particular second of this particular day on this particular year. Okay, right. Earth is both round and flat before observation. So what I'm saying here is that Earth has been collapsed into a Earth is in a superposition of being both round and flat, and then something observed it. And now this is where I'm going to have to revise the book, because I'm sort of going to say that it's a creator being that's observed it, but we're also observing it, and we are part of their consciousness. Our consciousness is one of their gametes, a male reproductive cell of the creator being. So you can't really make a distinction between their consciousness and our consciousness. The only distinction being is that we haven't got the full 9 yards. We've only got one of their consciousness gametes, and so we don't comprehend what's out there in that quantum wave function. We're sort of separated, but it's really, I haven't really sort of nailed it down as when Earth is collapsed from being in the superposition of being both round and flat into being flat. I'm not quite sure who's doing the observing, whether it's whether the creator being has collapsed it or whether we've collapsed it, because obviously we're observing it as well. But I tend to think that it was the creator being's observation that collapsed the Earth from being in the superposition of both being round and flat into being flat. Okay, so this is sort of some supporting evidence of the fact that that Earth is flat. Like we're told that the sun is 150 million kilometers away, and if that was the case, you wouldn't get this spreading out of sun's rays. Like they wouldn't. Like that, to me, looks like the sun's just out there, maybe a few thousand kilometers beyond the clouds. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't get the sun's rays being spread out. So maybe something's collapsed the sun and the moon from being both a long way away and large and small. Okay, so we think the sun's we're told the sun's 150 million kilometers and the moon's 283,000 kilometers away, and that the sun is really, really big and a lot bigger than the moon. But they might have been collapsed into being the same size and close, okay? And this image here has got the sun but like being collapsed by the maternal-paternal observations, and there they are, and then they sort of get back. So they're part of the cyclical process as well. So they get collapsed when we observe, and then they go back to being both a long way away and difference in size. So again, it's a cyclical process. Okay, now Sally Flat Earth, I got these images. I took these photographs myself when I was on my way back from Port Augusta one time, popped into Port Germain, and Port Germain is 38 kilometres from Whyalla. You can see this image here. This is the top of Spencer Gulf. That's Port Germain, that's Whyalla. And that should be, according to the Earth's curvature calculator, which is there, that should be 113. There should be a 113 metre drop. So that's Whyalla there. You can't see it very well, but if you're standing on the jetty at Port Germain, you can very, very clearly see the steelworks, the chimney at the Whyalla steelworks on the other side of Spencer Gulf, which, as I said, is 38 kilometres away, and you can even see the buildings and the tree lines as well, which suggests to me that that is flat. There's no curvature. It's meant to, as I say, it's meant to be. Nobody can test this Earth's curvature calculator. This is Lake Ontario, and that's Toronto, and that again, that's actually over 50 kilometres, and basically you shouldn't be able to see Toronto, but you can. And this is, there's heaps and heaps of images, but this is on the beach. I can see the mud in the water on the southern shore of Lake Ontario. And as I say, it's 50 kilometres, and you can see, see Toronto very, very clearly. Okay, so here's your flat Earth. Now this one here, I believe it's like a simulation. I won't go into this thought experiment, but basically, I will just very, very briefly. Just imagine that there's three observers, three things observing a guy running that's got artificial legs. First is a fence post. Now the fence post, and there's a thought experiment, so you're allowed to, make things up, But the fence post can actually see things that are physical, like material. So he can see the legs, right? But he can't see anything that's living. So the fence post, he's sort of on the, planted on the ground on the side of the road, and he's looking out on the road, and what he can see is the legs that are bouncing along, and he can't figure out, what's making these legs, move along. He can only see the legs, and so he assumes that these artificial legs, that the material that make the legs has got some sort of hidden energy, that it's sort of like a vortex type thing coming from the material that's making the legs move. And the second thing that's observing is this guy here, and of course he can see the legs and he can see the runner, and he's absolutely amazed that the fence posts are so stupid that there's some sort of vortex or jet stream, autonomously, intrinsic flow pattern, all these things that quantum physicists come up to explain, what circulates the blood. What is it that allows the Alpine Swift to fly for 6 months without resting? The fence post is completely bloody stupid, to think that it's coming from the material that makes up the legs. But if this guy here is asked about the actual, the energy that makes our blood flow, it's a vortex. It's autonomously. There's some form of intrinsic pain, but and here we got God. He's saying, well, hey, listen, human, you can't see those other dimensions of space and time that are out there. Don't be so silly to think that it's that it's a vortex or whatever. So we're in the same position as a fence post that can only see the material and can't see the living. Okay, that the creator being out there has got, obviously there are other dimensions of space and time that are hidden to us. And that's where the energy comes from. It's in that quantum wave function that gets collapsed. Now, I've actually talked about a spacesuit that, you've got to, just imagine what that creator being had to do to create life on planet Earth. It's sort of like us when we want to put someone in outer space, and we've got to create a simulation like that will control the air pressure and and provide oxygen, because on planet Earth we've evolved to live in this gravitational field and breathe a oxygen rich environment and things like that. So we have basically been twigged, I believe. Whoever created us basically said, okay, well, what we've got to do is put these people on planet Earth, but we need to sort of supply them with the means by which they can survive on planet Earth, and that will sort of give, they need access to that energy that will make the blood flow. That they need access to energy that will make their biological systems work, and so we're sort of like we're like a sort of a cosmological space. We're wearing, planet Earth is basically surviving because something has actually twigged our biological system to work on planet Earth, right? But it doesn't do it independently. It's interlocked with this energy system that is out there in the cosmological wave function. Sorry, I haven't explained that very well. Okay, I'm going to have to revise this. Basically, what I'm going to talk in the revised book, I'm going to talk more about how the